Hello, so in this video, we'll be saying what are RASA forms. Usually, when we want to retrieve any information from the user, or when we want to take input, or when we want to get some information from the user's input, we use entities to extract the data, and we use slots to store the data. This is in the case like normally when we just want to extract one single data or one single input we want to extract from the user's chat, we follow the usual steps, that is define the slots and the entities, then using entities extract the slots from the user's input. Suppose we don't have just one entity or one slot. Suppose we want to extract more data, like suppose we want to take the user's name as input, then we want to extract the phone number from the chat as entity, then we want to say even take the place of living of the user from the chat, then we can do that. For that, there are two methods of doing. One is the usual method, which we did the last time, that was using the stories. We define here stories to take the input. Like suppose we say when so and so intent is triggered, then ask for this slot, then ask for next slot, then ask for next slot, next slot, next slot, next slot. If there are one or two entities or slots, then this is a easier way. You just define the stories and you get the slots or entities. But when there are many slots and you want to extract many slots, this becomes a tedious job. So in that case, RASA forms come into action. So basically, RASA forms are like normal usual forms as we have. In a normal form, what we do is we have a form, we have input field, and we just have to fill the data, whatever is asked. So similarly, the RASA forms also work in a kind of similar way. The Whenever we define a form, we have to define rules to activate that form. And those rules define like how the form will get activated and how the form will get submitted. So whenever a form is activated, we need to define the slots that need to be asked in the form. So whatever slots we define in the form asks the user for the slots, and it keeps on asking for the slots until and unless all the slots are over. Once all the slots are over, we need to define a rule to submit the form. Once the form is submitted, we get all the slots and we can use it further to perform any action. So let's just see how to do it. So before doing anything, we need to define the slots and entities that we want to extract. So for example, we'll just take the name, city, and phone number entity. And here we have defined the slots as well. One is for the phone number, one is for the city, and one is for the name. I'll just remove this. Yeah. So as usual, we have a phone number, that is which is of type text, and it will be mapped from entity, that is number. We have an entity number. This slot will be extracted using this entity number. Similarly, we have a city. Even the city slot will be extracted from using the entity city. This is also of type text, and even the slot name. We have a slot name will be extracted using the entity, that is name. And for this entities, we need to provide training data in our nlu.yaml file, which I've done here. So I've created a new intent in form, and I've even defined the intent here in form. So in this in form intent, I have given the training data for all the entities that I have. Like here we have few examples for a phone number entity. Then we have few examples for a name entity, And we have few examples for a city entity. We'll just add one example more. Suppose I say my name is in square bracket data, whatever we have, and the entity name. Okay, and we'll provide one more example for city as well. My city is, we'll just say Goa. Okay, and phone number we have already quite a few of examples. Yeah, so once we are done providing the training data for the entities and slots, then we need to define the form, RASA form. So here it is, we have defined the RASA form. We can define as many forms as we want. Then we can give the form name. Here we are given the form name as just simple form because it is just a simple form to take the user's input. And in this form, we have required slots. Required slots we can mention in this section. We have to mention whichever slots we want to extract in this form. Whatever slots we provide, it will be extracted. We can provide n number of slots here. Just the thing is, we have to provide training data for each slot and entity in a NLU.NL file. Right now, we just have three slots, that is name, city, and phone number. So I've provided name, city, and phone number. One thing we have to make a note of is the order in which you provide the required slots is the order in which the RASA will ask the user for the slots from the using the form. Suppose like we have your name, so the bot will first ask for the user's name. Then we have city, then it will ask for city. Then we have phone, it will ask for the phone. It don't start from like phone first, then city, then name. The order in which we provide the slot names, it will follow that same order. If we want to ask the phone number before name, you can just shift this phone above name, or you can just juggle these things and move up and down in whichever order you want. So we'll just keep it as it is right now. First, we'll ask the name, then the city, then the phone. Okay, next thing we need to do is we need to define the responses for the form. So here we have first the utter ask phone. This response is to ask the phone number from the user. Can I get your phone number? Then we have the utter ask name. Here we have, hey there, what is your good name? Then we have the utter ask city. In which city do you live in? If you want to add more slots and entities, then you can just add slots here, entities above. Then you can add the required slots in the form. Then you have to just define the utterances to take the slot input here in responses section. You can define as many responses as you want. Again, you can notice the naming convention here, like utter, then ask, and the slot name. Similarly here, utter ask the slot name, then utter ask slot name. This will help the RASA bot recognize which utterance to use for which slot. This is the naming convention for that. Utter, ask, then the slot name. So whenever form is triggered, and whenever form is triggered, like this form will get triggered, and it will check which are the required slots. Suppose the required slot is name, then the bot will go and search for the utterance, utter, ask, name for in the responses. So here we have the utter, ask, name. Then it will ask the user, hey there, what is your good name? Then it will come to the next slot, that is city. When it comes here, it will go in the responses and search for utter ask city, which is here. So similarly, it goes on for any slots that we want to retrieve. Just we have to follow the naming convention, that is utter, ask, and a slot name. Yeah. Next thing we need to do is we need to write the rules for this form. First, we define the entities, then we define the slots, then we provided the training data in a NLU file for the entities to be extracted. Then we defined the form and we provided the slot names, whichever we want to retrieve in the form. Then we define the utterances that has to be used to extract the slots. The next step is to define the rules to activate the form. Here I have defined two rules. So the first rule is activate form loop. So this rule will activate the loop for the form. Whenever a form is triggered, it will activate the loop. So here we have the steps for that thing. Whenever user starts the conversation, we want to activate the form. So whenever intent greet is triggered, intent greet is hi, hello, good morning, or any sort of thing. Whenever intent greet is triggered, then we'll perform the action that is simple form. And this is a form name that we have defined. So whenever intent greet is triggered, the action simple form will be performed. And then we activate the loop for the simple form. This loop is kept active until and unless all the slots are retrieved. Once all the slots are retrieved, this loop will get deactivated and the form will get submitted. For that thing, we have another rule here, that is submit form. This loop will activate the form and this loop will submit the form. Submit the form means here whenever we have written the condition here, so whenever the active loop is simple form, that is this. So whenever the active loop is simple form, the next step to perform is action simple form. And in that simple form action, if the active loop is null, that is, if this loop becomes null and the request slot was set, that is requested slot is null, that means if all the slots are retrieved and the requested slot is null, then perform action say data. This will just prompt the data, whatever is retrieved. Requested slot was null is we'll look at when we test the bot how this goes. Whenever a slot is requested, this action will get triggered. Once all the slots are retrieved and the requested slot becomes null, then then the action say data is triggered. Okay, so now we have even defined the rules. One is to activate the form loop, and one is to deactivate the form loop and submit the form. Our next step is to define this action, that is action say data. So let's just do that. First, we need to define the action here in a domain.yaml file, that is action say data. Once this is done, we need to write the code for the action say data in a actions.py file. That is here. We have a class action say phone. We'll just modify it. Action say data. And in this, we have a function. Whenever action say data is called, this code is executed. Right now, we just have we have the variable phone that gets the slot value phone from the tracker. It just defines the other variables as well. That is, we have our name. We'll be using the tracker to get the slot. and the slot name is name. And one more variable we have is city. And for even this variable, we'll be using tracker to get the slot value, and the slot name is city. Okay. So this was just for validation. I'll just remove this. And this message will display here, will display all the data. So first we'll say is A, and then we'll use the slot name A. I'll just type a message to display. Yeah, this is just a dummy message that will be displayed, like simple message. It will get the slot values using tracker. It will get the slot value name, city, and phone. Then it will just display the slot values. We'll just save this. After saving, let me just open a new terminal. Okay. Before performing, before using any RASA command, please make sure that you have activated your virtual environment where you have installed RASA so that you don't encounter any errors. So let's just train this model first using the command RASA train. By the time the model gets trained, let's just open up a new terminal, and the virtual environment is activated. Yes. And let's just wait for the model to get trained. Once the model is trained, we can run our RASA server here, and then we can run our action server here in our new terminal. By the time the model gets trained, let's just summarize whatever we did. First, in our domain.yaml file, we defined our entities and slots. And we defined our entities, then we defined our slots to slots that will be extracted using the entities that we defined earlier. Then in our nlu.yaml file, we provided data, training data for the entities to be extracted. Then we came back to our domain.yaml file, and then we defined our form, that is a simple form. Then for that form, for the form to extract the slots, we defined utterances, that is utter ask phone, utter ask name, and utter ask city. After that, we went to our rules.yaml file, and in the rules file, we defined our rules. One is to activate the form, and one is to submit the form. Then after defining the rules, here we had used a action when we submit a form, that is action say data. So for that, we then define that action in our domain file, that is here actions, action say data. And then we wrote the code for the action say data in our actions.py file. That is this. We whenever the action say data is called, this code will be executed. And this doesn't do anything basically. It just extracts the slot value from the slots, that is name, city, and phone number, and stores in these variables, and it will just display a simple message that will demonstrate that all the slots are extracted. Okay, so our bot is trained. We just increase this. Yeah, so our RASA model is trained at saved at so and so folder with name. So it is stored under the models folder with this name. As I told you, or whatever models we train, they are stored here. So this is our latest one, as you can see, from formatting tab. So okay, our model is trained. Let's now just run it and see. So rasa shell. Till the time the bot gets loaded, we'll just run our action server in the new terminal that we had opened using rasa run actions. This is because we are using the custom actions to display the slots. So action endpoint is up and running on port 5055 on the local host. And here our Rasta server is still starting. Since we have not specified any model that we want to use, the Rasa will use the latest model that we have trained by default. So here it is loading the models that we just trained. As you can see, our latest model trained was this, and it is using the same model right now. Suppose if you want to use any other previous models that you had trained, you can just specify the model name. Okay, our bot is running now. Let's just interact with it and see. I say hello. So, okay, hey there, what is your good name? I say Sahil. In which city do you live in? Mumbai. Can I get your phone number? Yes. Okay, so as you can see, it's prompting the slot values correctly. That is, here is my name, Sahil. Then here is the city name, Mumbai. Then here is a phone number. Yeah, so let's just see exactly what goes on in the background by using the RASA interactive feature to understand it better. This will take some time because the RASA interactive command, whenever we use the RASA interactive command, it trains the model first, then it loads the model. So as you can see, the latest trained model is here, and it is now loading the RASA bot. Let's just give it a minute. By the time this gets started, we'll just restart our action server with debug flag so that we can see whenever action server is triggered or whenever action server is executed or if it encounters any errors. So for that, we'll give the command rasa run actions with the debug flag. Okay, so action endpoint is up and running. Yeah, so our rasa bot is also running. Bot loaded, type a message. Okay. So we'll say hello. So as you can see, whenever we say hello, the NLU model classified our input as intent greet, and it says that there are no entities in it. Is it correct? Yeah, there are no entities in it. So yes, it is correct. Okay, so here you can see we have slots, current slots. We have a phone slot, we have then city slot, then we have the name slot. And right now the requested slot is none because we have still not the simple form is not yet triggered. Now the bot is asking that the bot wants to run simple form. Correct. So according to the rules that we defined, whenever user says hi, hello, or whenever intent greet is triggered, then we activate the form according to our rules. So the bot is asking, the bot wants to run the simple form. Is that correct? Yeah, we want to run the simple form that we just defined or created. Okay, so as you can see, the simple form is activated, and here we have the active loop. Name is simple form of the loop. So this form is active in a loop, and this loop will be active until and unless all these slots are extracted. So this form is active in a loop, and here you can see slot. The requested slot is name. So the first slot that we had mentioned in a form was name. So it is asking for the slot name. Hey there, what is your good name? And the bot says that he wants to run the action listen. We'll say yes, and we'll enter our name after this. Okay, so I put the question was, hey there, what is your good name? I'll say my name is Ani. So here, now we can see that this the intent right now that is triggered is inform, and in that intent from our response, that is my name is Anu, the bot has extracted the entity name as Anu. So, and it is asking us that whether all the entities are labeled correctly. Yes, they are. Okay, so the bot again wants to run the simple form because it is active in a loop. So we'll say yes. Okay, so as you can see in the current slots section, the slot name is extracted. So the next slot name is extracted here, and the next slot that was requested was city. So whenever the slot city is requested, it will go in our domain file in the responses section, and it will search for the utterance that says utter ask city. And that utterance which we had defined was this: in which city do you live in? So the bot wants to run action listen. Yes. Okay. So we'll say city as Goa. Similarly, it has to do for the third slot, that is phone number. As you can see, it has correctly extracted and labeled the entities, that is Goa and city. So it wants to again run the simple form because we have still one more slot remaining, that is our phone number. So can I get your phone number, please? We'll just enter a dummy number. So even here, as you can see, our phone number entity is extracted correctly and it is stored in the slot 4. Now the bot again wants to run the action simple form. Okay, so as you can see, according to our rule, whenever the requested slot was set to null, then the active loop should also be set to null and the form comes out of the loop. So this is what just happened right now. We extract all the slots were extracted, that is name, city, and phone number. And once all the slots were extracted, the requested slot was set to null. So whenever this happens, the form comes out of the loop. So the form came out of the loop, and the last action that we wanted to run was action save data. So before running this, we'll just check in a action server. Nothing as of now here. So once we run the action say data, then we should get a message here saying requested to run action say data and action say data finished successfully or something like that. So we'll say yes, we'll go back to our action server and see whether we receive any request. Yeah. So as you can see, received request to run action say data and finished running action say data. So action say data was finished running successfully, and here you can see our action say data was run successfully and we got a message with our slots that were extracted correctly. That is, here we have a name slot, that is Anu. Yes, then we have a city, Goa, then we have a phone number. We have a phone number. Okay, so that was actions, RASA action, form actions. Yeah, one more thing we can notice here is whenever we use the RASA interactive, whatever the conversation goes on at the end, if you use the option export and quit before killing the server, if you use the option export and quit, then it will store the all the conversation flow as stories in a stories.yaml file. So as you can see in a data folder stories.yaml file, it is storing a data. And if we have like even the uh, user input, it will be stored in the NLU file. All the data of the chat will be used in the NLU file. So as you can see, we didn't have any stories before this conversation. And here, after the conversation, we have a story that is interactive story 1. So this goes on to tell you. Usually the RASA interactive command is used to train the bot, like to write stories and all. If you are not sure about how the story will go, then usually we use the RASA interactive command to tell the bot how the story should go. And once the conversation ends, it will automatically store the stories. Then the next time you run the bot, it will follow the stories, whichever we have. So that's it.